And he used to brag about how he banged Marine's wife because he was a local guy. He was a civilian. Yep.
I got thrown out because I confronted somebody with stolen Valor.
In a VFW.
In a VFW. You're stealing thunder from somebody that's no longer here to be able to defend it or have a cold beer themselves.
And you know what? They're stealing it from somebody that paid the fucking price.
I think we can wrap this up with one simple phrase. Fuck around and find out. Hey everybody, JC and Bo back here. Another one we get hit up a lot with, and something we've experienced here since getting retired and, both living up here in the hills of West Virginia, is stolen valor.
Oh.
The ever-present and looming threat of stolen valor.
Here we go.
And the ignorance and the audacity and the bullshit that comes out of some people's mouths it's shocking.
You remember that jackass we ran into at the VFW? What did he say? Us grunts snipers need to stick together or something?
Us grunts got to stick together.
I'll tell you right now, that motherfucker, I took one look at him and I know he ain't spent one fucking minute in the rain.
No, not at all. No suffering. And I think, and we'll get back to him, but I think you and me care about today's war fighter. We care about the service member. Anybody that serves our country, from the Coast Guard Reserve all the way to the guy that's doing the last 100 yards, everybody matters.
Absolutely. Every rank and every billet is important.
And I'm going to tell you, when one of those kids gets out after their 4 years and they go to Hometown USA and they're like, you know what, my veterans organization is the American Legion, or I'm going to go down here to the VFW. And the reason we don't see today's youth in the VFW or the Legion is because the first guy they see when they go in that veterans organization is a lying piece of shit 9 times out of 10.
Yep.
And you and me have experienced this. Oh. And, we talk about the guy that you brought up in the beginning. You've got to be an ignorant son of a bitch to walk up to us. And we probably did something, right?
Yeah.
And the first word out of your mouth, and this isn't the only time we've had a run-in with this guy. The first time I meet him, my talents were discovered on the rifle range.
Oh, yeah.
And they made me a scout sniper, and from there I went over to Force Recon.
You went straight from boot camp.
I said, well,
from the rifle range.
From the rifle range. Rifle range.
What a fucking liar. Look, man, I
filling out page 6 on the data book, making a call.
Man, the motherfucker, man, I get a stomach ache just thinking about that shit.
I should have asked him about the smelting pot. But anyway, we knew that guy was full of shit, and we kind of, I kind of gave him the get on. Then he hits me again and says, not only am I a Marine sniper, I've trained with Chris Kyle. Holy shit, you've trained with a Navy SEAL.
But yeah. I seen you turn around. I said, oh, shit. Here we go.
Then I'm like, you know what? I could hurt this dude. But I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to get away from him and not cause a scene. And then he hits me with this one. You going to come celebrate the Marine Corps birthday with me?
Right.
That did it.
Right.
That did it.
Right.
And then he got put on notice. I said, listen here, motherfucker.
He quit coming in there.
I know. I said, listen up, man. I said, don't you worry about me or Bo or any other United States Marine celebrating a birthday. I said, here you go. What's your MOS? I'm going to help you out, buddy. It's 4 numbers.
Yep.
4 numbers.
Say it. What are you?
I said, because you're a liar and you stole valor, and I bet you aren't even a fucking Marine, you piece of shit. What did the bartender say?
Oh, yeah, she got mad.
She told me to get out.
Yep.
I got thrown out because I confronted somebody with stolen valor. In a VFW. And thankfully, the commander, a Vietnam vet, said, no, sir.
Yeah, right, you're coming back in.
He said, you're coming back in. So, and people are like, well, you guys are Marines, you're a little bit different. No. If you know a duck's a duck, and that is your veterans organization, and somebody's in their line, they are keeping good Marine soldiers, sailors, and airmen out of the post with their bullshit. So call them out, tell them to get the hell out. That them or their money is not necessary in that post. Tell them to beat it, man. So
I agree 100%.
It troubles me because when those were created back in the day, that was for guys, particularly with the VFW, for guys that just came back to war.
Came back home, and they wanted to be around their brothers.
That's it.
And it was a place where they could go. Nobody was better than anybody else in there.
No.
They were just all a bunch of fuck sailor soldiers, airmen, Marines that wanted to get together because they had one thing in common, And they, that you can't get that at a regular bar.
Right.
And that's the reason the American Legions and VFWs and all them were designed to do.
Right.
But now some of these places let these fucking jackasses in. Yeah. And it ruins the whole spirit of the whole spirit of the place.
Yep. And in particular with another guy around here, I'm not a big fan of bullies.
I know where this is going.
And there was that day that you needed a ride, and I said, well, I'm going to go pick you up. And I came across that one fella that told me that He was a sniper in the Army, and he hit 183 IEDs in a 6-month deployment.
Well, goddamn, you hit one every other day. You hit more than the whole 2nd Marine Division.
And the problem with all that was, it wasn't that he was just lying, but he told me that he did not like strangers in his bar.
Right. Yeah, how did that work out for him?
Well,
I heard JC. I was standing there, and I heard JC going off. I said, wait a minute, JC don't fucking talk like that. I spun around, and JC was knee-deep in this dog's ass.
well,
in his ass.
You know, the backstory is...
Don't grab his sandwich and leave.
The backstory is this guy stepped on a landmine of salt that he had no idea what had happened.
Well, he had everybody in the bar fooled.
Well...
Everybody in the bar said, hey, man, that fucking a war hero. Well, let's talk to him.
Well, the backstory is I found out this guy was a bully, but when he decided to come over and pick a bone with me, I was also sitting at a table with 5 other Marine gunners, all Purple Heart, all Valor guys,
right.
And he professes, I don't like strangers in my bar.
Yeah. Well, that bothered you when you told me that.
It did, man, and I remember... I told you about it, and I said, I don't know when I'm going to see this guy again, but when I do,
well, you did.
He's getting the business. Never thought it would be on a day where I had to come be your designated driver, and I'm picking you up, and that jackass walks in the bar. And he got the business, and I've said some things I probably don't want to say here on the podcast.
He said, it's my fucking bar. You know why? Because I'm standing in it.
Well,
this ain't your fucking bar.
And I called him a pussy, a douchebag, and about everything else under the sun.
Oh, yeah.
And what was amazing is I think that's one of the few times I've seen Bill Bodette going from a blood alcohol content of about 0.30 to stone cold sober, and you grabbed him with the bear paws and started offering counsel. You went from absolutely drunk to straight business.
I said, son, you fucking lied. You stole Valor. You're full of shit. I said, you have no idea who you're talking to right now.
And then I became a complete jackass while you were trying
yelling at me over my shoulder. Fuck you.
That idiot.
Usually he's a voice of reason.
The best is like a month later he comes on a date in there and I wouldn't let him get out of his chair.
Oh, God.
The whole evening. Now, you know.
No, he tried to shake your hand. You said, get the fuck away from me. Yeah.
But to the point, I found out this guy was a bully and a punk. Yeah. So I felt like it was my moral obligation to make this guy feel uncomfortable.
Well, you know what, though, JC?
He deserved every bit of that.
Absolutely. And, and I think he learned from that.
I think so, because you ran into him again.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, he comes around with his hat in his hand, buddy. Man, one day we ran into him. I was all drunk. I stole his French fries.
And he let it happen.
Goddamn, what was he going to do?
So...
Devil dog hungry, I'm going to eat your fries, son.
And here's the thing. It dampens... we've lost a Marine in combat. People have lost soldiers. And I feel it's part of my duty to be able to share that story. A lot of us veterans that are still here, combat wounded guys, guys that have been to do the last 100 yards. I want to be able to share their story. And those guys are stealing our brothers' thunder and sisters that are no longer here. And
riding on their coattails.
And what they do is that turns people off that don't know about what we do. It turns people off. So in my mind, I always look, you're stealing thunder from somebody that's no longer here to be able to defend it or have a cold beer themselves.
And you know what? They're stealing it from somebody that paid the fucking price.
Absolutely.
They paid for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
You didn't pay dick. Right.
Yeah.
Fuck, here we go. We got any whiskey?
So if you see it, snuff it out. Chew their ass, tell them to get down the fucking road. There's no place for it. But I also find this ironic we're talking about stolen valor. You often tell me you got 2 more ribbons than me. and I've got to question those 7 good conducts and those 2 humanitarian service medals.
Well,
I think we're about even. The only open hand I've ever seen, it isn't the one on the humanitarian service medal. The only open hand I've ever seen you give anybody is the open hand slap.
You've seen that in the bar that one night.
Well, he had it coming because he was banging Marines' wives while they were deployed.
That's right. That's exactly right. I walked up and I smacked him, open hand slap. And then he started going down. I said, no, stay with me, son.
Well.
Stood him back up. I gave it to him again. How many times I smack him open hand?
Several.
Fucking, he used to brag about how he banged Marine's wife because he was a local guy. He was a civilian. Brag about banging Marine's wives when they were deployed and shit. Well, fucking, I got wind of that and all that. I said, okay.
I think we can wrap this up with one simple phrase. Fuck around and find out.
Bo and JC out.